welcome to our program where we bring you news in detail. Today on the program, violence among the Patriotic Front cadres instigated by the creation of two rival camps continues unabated. The violence has become brutal and is now associated with death. Who and what will it take to stop the fights? From employees to employers, bus drivers get buses in an empowerment program targeting 1,000 drivers. The empowerment makes a turn around the public transport sector marred with negative public image. As preparations for this year's Ukosafia Pangwena traditional ceremony of the Bemba-speaking people of northern Zambia intensify, uncertainty, however, still hangs over the Bemba royal establishment's strained relationship with government. I'm Francesca Piribanda, and you're watching The Scoop. PF leadership is divided. The brutal fight among its cadres is a clear testimony of a deeper problem than meets the eye. It is many Zambians' fears that unless something is done now, the worst is yet to come. Warring PF cadres on Thursday fought, leaving one of their colleagues dead, while many sustained serious injuries. In pain and bleeding from the wounds surfaced and inflicted on him by members of his own party, the Patriotic Front. However, this PF cadre will consider himself lucky to have survived. His colleague was not so lucky.
I came here, they've refused.
Moses Simwela has succumbed after suffering a broken spine. These are the results of the deepening divide in the governing Patriotic Front. Last month, the party's top decision-making body met at State House to resolve the widening divide. But this killing, injuries and damage to property tells it all, that nothing was resolved. The longer it takes for President Sata to stop this mayhem in the PF, the deeper the wounds will be.
Seen is that there's breakdown in the hierarchy, where you find a youth challenging the vice president, a youth challenging the secretary general of the party. That must be controlled, because it's a loss of direction, because at the end of the day, they will demand for the removal of the president himself. And it will not be strange, because he will have allowed it to happen to other leaders. PF now is the party in government. We expect them to put the house in order. I will expect cabinet ministers not to attack each other in the open. We've seen this happen again and again. There's not one person who can be blamed for this. It's the president himself. He's supposed to bring them to order and tell them that you can't attack each other in the open. That's why we've got cabinet, that's why we've got officers who can sit and resolve issues. But the president appears not to be concerned about these things. How can a government function as a cohesive unit? In cabinet, there's what's called collective responsibility. How can you have collective responsibility if you're busy tearing each other apart in the streets? It's sad, it's unfortunate, they must stop it. Maybe they were not ready to govern. But along the way, everybody thought that they would get their act together and begin to show leadership and give the people of Zambia some hope that something will come out of their government. It's extremely sad. We don't want to encourage it, we don't wish them ill, we want them to get themselves organized. A 5-year mandate is there. But if they continue at this pace, they might not finish the 5-year mandate, because the people gave them the mandate will disapprove of that and may demand for their removal. Those protesters are asking to protest in the streets against Mr. Kavimba. Can one day be protests against the removal of the government and the president himself? We must avoid that kind of thing. We must not encourage people to do that kind of thing.
As the two armed factions engaged in bitter fight, police could only watch, worse still, engage in discussion with these cadres.
We've got a problem. So you may feel it's better
Some top PF leaders, among them Eastern Province Chairperson Lamek Mangani and William Sanda, visited the injured and checked on the deceased cadre at Levy General Hospital. While Mr. Sanda declined to speak to the Scoop team, claiming he was mourning, Mr. Mangani warned that unless the cadres behind the killing are brought to book, this was the beginning of worse things in the PF.
It's my appeal to the police should do thorough investigations. I think we're not dealing with the PF cadres, we're dealing with thugs. All those that are involved in this type of must be followed by the police. If the culprits are not brought to book, this fight will not finish. So we need to move in very quickly. All those that are hired to create this must be followed wherever they are. So it's a very sad development that we have lost a life within the same family of the PF. Very sad indeed.
Whatever the differences or difficulties in the ruling party, this killing is a shame and falls squarely on the PF leadership. Police will also share in the blame for treating the fights among PF cadres with kids' gloves. North Mid Assemblies of God Bishop Joshua Banda appeals for decency to prevail in the PF.
Really concerned about this latest eruption of violence in the ruling party, and especially that it has already resulted in the loss of a life. And any time we lose a life, it's one too many. We cannot afford it. And we really are very concerned, and we would like, first of all, to condemn this level of violence in the strongest terms possible. Violence is never an answer. And to think that there is a family out there now which is in mourning as a result of this violence, and also to think that there are many others who are injured, meaning several other families are affected, is just not acceptable. We would like to make an appeal really to the leaders in the ruling party to be able to intervene in an expeditious manner. Probably this may have to take His Excellency himself to step in and make sure that this thing comes to a stop. It is a concern to us. It's not just an issue of the Patriotic Front. This is a national matter, because this is a party that is in government, and we cannot afford to have this kind of thing going on.
President Sata's call for national unity will bear true meaning if it starts being demonstrated and seen in his divided PF.
We are praying for the leaders in the ruling party. We're praying for His Excellency. We're praying that God would grant him wisdom, and all the people involved. But because this thing seems to be in between particular factions, I trust that key people within these factions also would take a leading role and take a reconciliatory approach. I know we've heard indications of some level of reconciliation, but it's got to be real. The real issues must be on the table. They must be discussed so that that flows down to the cadres, and the cadres can feel at peace. So we're definitely very concerned and are trusting that at this level, maybe His Excellency himself needs to step in and see how this thing can be brought to a stop. But while we call for that, we still must find a solution somehow. All those that are an integral part to this whole issue must take a certain level of responsibility and be able to restrain their followers from continuing to have this level of violence. It is not good for Zambia. It is not good for Zambia today. It's not good for Zambia tomorrow. We are praying that this thing will come to an end.
Government is allegedly engaged in behind-the-scenes maneuvers to address the strained relationship with the Bemba royal establishment, as the Chief and Traditional Affairs Minister, Professor Nkanduluo, is blamed by the royal establishment as being the architect of the strained relationship. Now, the relationship between government and the Bemba royal establishment has for months been at the lowest ever since independence due to the alleged government interference. Will a patch-up ever heal the wounds that have been created? Preparations are in high gear for this year's Ukusafia Pangwena traditional ceremony of the Bemba-speaking people. Ukusafia Pangwena is the reenactment of the Bemba people's movement from Kola in Angola via the Democratic Republic of Congo to the current home, Kungwena. The event is set for this month and comes at the backdrop of a strained relationship between government and the Bemba royal establishment. Government has refused to recognize the new Chitimukulu Henry Kanyanta Sosala following the death of Mwina Luwemba Paramount Chief Chitimukulu Axon Mwango. A bitter war of words has been raging with the highest decision-making body of the Bemba-speaking people, the Bashi Luwemba, expressing utter disgust with government's decision.
Na chingu mana pamusao ine chimba koma abantu mwewapa Luwemba Luwemba olulonse baleti Luwemba ewa isasokolo Luwemba nini ukufuma kukola ko twaendele na bamunyina ne bonse bafu twaima ndina Bashi Luwemba bonse batantemi hapa ewa twaendele nabo paka twazafika na pali batila Pangwena twafunyapo abanenso twamba kuiteka bakaunda balateka ekyalo nga baleteka ekyalo kino kya Luwemba awo mukinshife kushamfumu kakwali kyawo nfuikikeko bafumapo kaisa bamwana wasi balateka kakwali kyawo nfuikikeko ukufumapo nibakiruwa balateka kapali kyawo nfuikikeko kaisa nibalupia banda baisa ateka po takwali kyawo nfuikikeko nombo omupamba twaisa twatola okusanga okutila ile tulelwile okutila naifowani omubemba kantu omubemba ewapokele kino kyalo nawe atungululepo ekyalo erinomba mukwaye twaisa ifwanta ichimuti palukasa twaifwanta ichimuti palukasa shamfumu Bashi Luwemba babonse baba palupi basaluka ishamfumu shonse sha Luwemba shaba palupi shasaluka.
The Bashi Luwemba Fields Traditional and Chiefs Affairs Minister Professor Nkanduluo has misled President Michael Sata regarding the new Chitimukulu. This view is also shared by the Ukusafia Pangwena National Executive Chairperson Francis Wamba.
Facts pertaining to the so-called misunderstanding. There has never been a misunderstanding between Luwemba and the government, but misrepresentation of the Minister of Chiefs and Professor Nkanduluo. Otherwise, we do believe that the government is going to do its rightful or take its right position on the matter.
Tachiwe menangu pamo Luwemba na lulila ejo ine nekabila abo ndekabila sana pali chimwaleta babika kona mayo ulya wakulolesha pasha mfumu uliana mayo naoni mwishiba naleta moluntu chawamanga kuna Luwemba tatule mukabila na kumukabila yo nimwishiba sana uyu mwebene mutila Nkanduluwo shilefisa naona leta molubola nomba balefu ababepeshe basha mfumu ababa bashilubemba bati ebatwala omulomoko.
Chiefs and Traditional Affairs Minister Professor Nkanduluwo declined to comment on the accusations and unresolved difference with the Bemba royal establishment.
No, I don't want to be in any discussion at all. And I've made my point very, very clear. I'm not commenting.
Okay, but you wanted to draw the distinction.
No, I'm not commenting.
Okay.
Notwithstanding, the National Executive Committee of the Okusefia Pangwena is geared for the successful ceremony and is also optimistic behind the scenes negotiations with government to resolve the differences will equally be successful.
The ceremony is planned to take place during the first week of November. And we have started fundraising ventures.
1,000 public service drivers are to acquire Higer buses under a loan facility from the Development Bank of Zambia. The Private and Public Drivers Association of Zambia has struck the deal in an effort to empower bus drivers who have been subjects of abuse by most operators. Bus drivers play a vital role in the country's economic development through provision of people's movement from various corners of the country. However, their status, well-being and conditions of service continue being marginalized, forcing them to work under very difficult situations in a bid to meet daily cashing targets. This has been noted as one of the major contributing factors to the poor public service transport sector in the country. In an effort to empower drivers and transform some of them from being employees to employers, government, the Public and Private Drivers Association and the Development Bank of Zambia have initiated an empowerment project for them.
This project is an empowerment scheme, an initiative we came up with in order to empower our members. We started it a long time ago and it was not successful, simply because there was no will from our previous government. But when this new government came in, we approached them for a will so that they can facilitate, and for us to get a loan from any financing institution, it was very difficult. So it needed a government will to guarantee the loan and assure the banks that we are Zambians, we are an association, well organized, we can pay back.
The project will see 1,000 public service drivers receive a brand new 64-seater Higer buses under the Public and Private Drivers Association of Zambia.
This is not a grant, it is a loan. There is an obligation to pay back. So we thought if we left it open to say we pick anyone from the street, we were going to fail to pay the loan. And the DBZ will not just leave us to say you failed, is fine. Automatically some measures will be taken. So to avoid a failure to pay the loan, we said there should be a process which we must undertake to ensure that our people are going to be empowered, are prepared for what is coming.
Beneficiary drivers are being prepared for their newly acquired status before receiving the buses to ensure they run their business effectively and ultimately repay the loan. The 1,000 drivers drawn from across the country have been placed in groups of 30 to ensure effective training.
Some operators have received our project with mixed feelings, but it's a 50-50 situation. This is a liberalized economy where we are not coming in as the enemies. We are coming in as the competitors, so they should accept it. Let's compete on the market, because the whole idea of this project was to cut down on the problems which we have been given by the same operators. Things like high cashings, failure to pay according to the government gazette in terms of minimum wage, also abuse of drivers. So we thought this project would cut down on those problems, and that pressure is what has contributed much to road traffic accidents. So we believe by this training, at least we will have fully baked drivers who will be professionals. And
Zambia Development Agency is one of the organizations that have provided resource persons and training the new operators in all aspects of business management in view that the transport sector has stiff competition.
The problem that we have now is that the family, business and the owner, it is one thing. The child can come out of the house running, not wearing properly, runs into the bus, and he tells everybody to stop doing what they are doing because he has to rush somewhere. Then everyone says, our boss, no. Everyone should have conditions of service. Those who have nothing to do with the business, let them stay at home.
Kay Kasanga from Mansa is excited to be one of the drivers attending the training, and she is looking forward to being her own boss.
Urging other women out there, there are certain things we feel women cannot do. But with women, whatever we put our heart to, we do it. And they say women are the best drivers. But most people, like where we're coming from, this organization, they haven't acknowledged it. Most of them thought maybe it was just this funny business that comes, people just want to get money from you and they go and you don't get anything out of it.
Anthony Kalimanshi is equally happy and is already looking at transformed transport sector.
We never even knew how to manage the buses, but we just used to take the daily cash basis money to our bosses. And we never knew how our bosses used to manage the company, but it's we as drivers who are managing the company without knowing. But today now we have learned a lot, and we are appreciating from the PPDAs for giving us this opportunity of accessing the bus loan.
Okay. The training program is in collaboration with the Road Transport and Safety Agency, Zambia Development Agency, and the Public and Private Drivers Association of Zambia. However, some drivers are skeptical about the project.
Mbali kwanga ya jama basi ne mweni wanaonera solimba so ingavuteko utranikani ukaburo kwani sandra makubweza yonse chamina wanashitanika chamina wanakambata tufuniko bwezi nasha bwanja sasa ofisi olimba kana ko yamina ali maiga jana senza kunanikani ku intercity kuti siya kwaanza kwenda jama long distance monga kashikishi kwenda uchipata ya kwanza chema routes ya munga Livingstone Mungu ndio mapresa yangu kwanza kutananika so kukuza kuti mapiri kuja yangavuteko pamwana okay munga kumbali kwanga ine sininga konde kujoin ndava palbecha bonzo naona hapo ndatinga join so mana muka represent munga singa stena nikane munga kumbali kwanga ine join. But would you like to go for the safety training? Ningaende safety training kairi part of nanikani driving so ningaende kwa nanikani training.
But some members of the association insist that the empowerment is the best thing the association has done for its members as they join the competitive transport business.
No, the empowerment, either the enrollment is open. I feel, as me, I'm part of that, I'm a member of that association. The enrollment is open to driver. Any person, who, as long as you have got a driver's license, be it PSV driver's license or non-PSV driver's license, or you own, yeah, you can be a member of the association. So there are no boundaries. Say you are not a PSV driver, only those who are PSV drivers. Even if you are not a PSV driver, also become a member of that association and benefit from whatever the association programs are.
The distribution of over 1,000 Higer buses will not just improve the livelihoods of the beneficiaries, but also lead to the creation of 5,000 jobs to help eradicate poverty. Well, that's it for our program, but before we go, we leave you with the proverb of the week. And this week's proverb says, madness does not govern a country, discussion does. The proverb again is, madness does not govern a country, discussion does. Remember, you can interact with us. All you have to do is type ASK, leave a space, type your message, and send it to 3322. That's where we come to the end of the program for today. Till we meet next week at the same time, thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. I'm Francesca Piribanda. Have a lovely week.